YouTube world and audience out there that might view this video. It's another edition of Joe's Politics 101. This is probably going to be my last post until after Christmas. Before I go, this is in addition to the one that I just posted about the NRA's news conference today. But before I go, I need to talk a little bit about John Boehner and his House of Representatives. John Boehner, you know, being the Speaker of the House of Representatives, is the man in charge of trying to get things done through the House. In my book, Radical Republican, in parentheses, Tea Party, I published in December 2010. I made a statement in the book that if the Republican Party or the Tea Party get control of either the House of Representatives or the Senate, politics as we know it in the United States of America will never be the same. You know, that's beginning to come clear, very clear, that what I said is the truth. Since they've had this fringe group or fringe fraction of the normally somewhat moderate Republican Party come into play in the House of Representatives, you've seen nothing happen. This House of Representatives haven't did anything of any substance since it came into office in 2011. This particular House of Representatives have not been productive in any form or fashion. And John Boehner is the Speaker of the House. He's the leader of that group. I said in a post earlier about John Boehner. John Boehner is not a leader. He don't have the leadership ability to bring his people into a common agreement on anything. And you know, it may not all be his fault. You know, you can't lead without help. You've got to have support. You got to have support of the people that you're supposed to be leading. He is not the leader of the Republican Party in the House of Representatives. I've said a number of times, and in my new book, which should be coming out, I should be publishing it probably around May, April or May. I've said that Eric Cantor is the one that's calling the shots in the House of Representatives. He's the majority leader of the House of Representatives, and he is an extremist himself. He is well, let's just say he's a Tea Partier. That's what he is. You know, he's a member of the Young Guns who come to Washington, D.C. trying to change things, to make things the way he wanted them to be, or they wanted them to be. So he is a Tea Party. Could he have helped John Boehner on his Plan B last night? Who knows? But what we do know in retrospect, and what we have known for some time, is Eric Cantor would like to be the Speaker of the House. Now, how much better he would be at leading the House of Representatives or getting things done through the House of Representatives, that's yet to be seen. Because you have other people to deal with. You have Democrats to deal with. You have the Senate to deal with. You know, we see what these people are about. Now, John Boehner was offered a $250,000 limit on tax cuts. Anything below $250,000, no change. Anything above it, the rates would go up. Well, he's been talking to the president. So he offered up tax breaks for people making $1 million and less and tax the rest of the people, which is not acceptable because it don't work. It just provides those who are making millions of dollars, $1 million a year, with more tax breaks. So the president boosted his up to $400,000. John Boehner said, nope, I'm going to call a vote on the $1 million, and that's going to be it. Well, I'll be damned. He couldn't muster up enough votes in his House of Representatives, in the place that he's in charge of, his house, John Boehner's house. He couldn't muster up the votes to do that. So what does he do? What the Republicans always do when things get kind of tight. They pack up their little books. They pack up their little notes. They pack up their little ink pens. They pack up their staff. In other words, they take all their toys and they run home. We won't be back until after Christmas. Ha ha! All the vacations they've had this year, back and forth to their hometown. You know, and I imagine John Boehner's probably just hanging around in Washington, D.C. because he know he ain't going to be going nowhere no time soon. So he could not muster up enough votes for his bill that he wanted to put on the floor. That's a shame. Then he gets on television today and talk about all the bills that they've passed and passed and passed and passed. Those are just Republican bills that the Senate won't act on. Those are Republican bills with Republican ideas in them. No Democrats' ideas in them, no nothing. Just Republicans. And he wants those to pass when we know they are eccentric. They're detrimental to the well-being of the American people. You know, because they include all kinds of entitlement cuts and so forth and so on. You know, it's my way or the highway attitude the Republicans have and the Tea Party people have. It ain't going to work in this country. These people need to wake up and do what they were sent there to do. Help govern the country. President Obama can't do it because he don't make the legislation. He only signs it. He makes suggestions. You know, the House of Representatives and the Republicans in the Republicans in the House of Representatives and the Republicans in the Senate have denied this president everything they could possibly deny him. He sent them jobs bills. They say they're not serious jobs bills. They just want to spend more money, The money that we're talking about now is money that the Republican Party spent during the George Bush years. The wars, the tax cuts, the unpaid for different things like the medical, the prescription drug program, No Child Left Behind, all of these things that they didn't find ways of paying for, they just implemented them. And then we get two wars, and that's spending millions of dollars a day. But they blame it all on this president. They need to cut now. Well, this president offered up a pretty good chunk of money there to try to start bringing that down. You're not going to do it in a year or 2 years or 1 year or whatever. And then he's asking for people to pay the proper amount of tax for the money that they earn. The proper amount of tax for the money you earn is based on the fact that you make this much this year, this much next year, this much is progressive. But that's what taxes are, progressive. The more money you make, the more tax you pay. And what's wrong with that? Why should someone making $2 million a year or $3 or $4 million a year pay the same rate that I pay making $30,000 a year? Those are the sort of questions that the American people should be thinking about. Yep. All this extremist bullshit about the taxes. No, and if you can't see the idea in that, the probability of a poor low income or middle income person becoming a millionaire through work is a fantasy and a dream. The probability of someone inventing something that's going to make them $1 million is a dream and a fantasy. The probability that you wake up tomorrow morning with a great idea that's going to make you $1 million is a dream and a fantasy. It can happen to some, but the majority of it never happens to anyone. So paying your fair share of taxes do not seem like an unreasonable thing. If you make $10 million, pay the rate that should be paid for the $10 million. Don't pay the same rate that the guy making $19,000 a year pays. If he pays 15% and you a millionaire and you paying 15%, you're not doing your part. You're not paying your fair share. That's just the understanding, the bottom line. If you can't understand that, something wrong with you. John Boehner couldn't get it did. He'll never be able to get it did. And probably in January, around January the 4th or the 5th or the 3rd or whatever day they have their little speaker nomination and votes, Eric Cantor's probably going to be the new House of Representatives Speaker. This is Joe's Politics 101. I'm out.